Yep.
Welcome everyone to Accessibility New York City, second meetup of the month. We've got our captions up here on the screen. We're here at Thoughtbot, and we are very thankful to the Internet Society of New York for getting us streaming out live on the web, and also to have all of our presentations, this one and all the ones we've had in the past, are available on our YouTube channel. So with that, I'm just excited to introduce Stephanie Barton-Farcas. I actually read her book last year, kind of end of last year. I thought it was awesome topic, disability in theater. We have not had this discussion here at Accessibility New York City, so really excited to have Stephanie here from Hawaii and to learn from her experience. Thank you.
Oh, bless your heart. That was a lead-in, wasn't it? And I just want to let you know I've got flyers, discount for the book. No, but there's info about the book. Disability in Theater, Practical Manual for Inclusion in the Arts with an emphasis on practical. I mean, these two will tell you, these two women here have been actresses for me many times. And they'll tell you I can talk, but I'm not really an academic, pedantic, verbose person, so there's a real emphasis on practical problem solving about inclusion. And now, can I do a quick poll? How many of you are artists in the room? And I mean actors or artists, designers or artists, blah, 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 blah. How many of you are administrators? How many of you are problem solvers? There you go. Everybody is, yes, of course. And we actually were going to start the presentation with a mic stand, but we jerry-rigged this. And I said, you know what, leave this, because this is emblematic of what every single one of you does. Every single day, you find a way to jerry-rig things, design things, fix things, make things work so they just work. Even though there might be a prettier, more streamlined way that might work, you find the way that does work, and you do it. And that, in a nutshell, I think is really what accessibility and inclusion is about, is, universal standards as much as possible for everybody. For me, inclusion in the arts or in any realm of the universe means really equal access for everybody to all things at all times, as much as is humanly possible. But I'm hearing that many of you are designers, developers, tech folks. So to a great extent, you're creating and helping to make the world that these two live in, which is pretty awesome. I want to ask you too, those of you who are designers, do you work in accessibility things? Do you design things that are accessible, universal access, things like that? Or, yeah? Yay, good on you, mate. Do you consult with disabled folks when you're designing, just as a curiosity?
No, we haven't gotten there.
Haven't gotten there?
We just run the site with a keyboard, a screen reader at this point, and some other test cases.
I asked that you use the microphone.
Oh. Me use this mic, he use that mic. Good, I'm already mic'd. But you haven't had actual real world things?
We work with major banks and FIs, and surprisingly, a lot of them are not accessible in our website, which is the loyalty site. So, but now everyone's begging for it. So I guess they're getting sued or something.
Yeah. Well, there's never, let's start with the bad news first. Our current government, as you might have noticed, has a few glitches. Arts funding has been decimated. The ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, is being gutted even now as we speak. There's less training and education, less funding for these things, whether it be for disabled artists or for accessibility work or design work or anything artistic in general. Diversity certainly is being bandied about a lot in every field, including politics, but a lot of the time it's lip service, and it's saying things that will get votes or make an impression or be a nice sound bite, and it's not reality. Adaptive technology, in some ways, is excelling like crazy, but in the day-to-day actual needs of real humans, it's kind of decreasing, at least under this administration. But now the good news, yay, woo! There are people like you all over the world. There is more active thought and casting and non-lip service being given specifically to the arts, where really it's never in history been a better time to be a disabled artist. I mean, right, we would say, ever in history. Or really black, or gay, or all three, or whatever you want to call it. At least in the arts in general, it's a good time for that. Art in that respect is leading the way as a social model a little bit. Another good thing, youth energy as a catalyst for change. I mean, the Parkland shooting kids come to mind for sure as a catalyst for active change, but teens are not the only ones. Many folks are being catalysts for stuff. What else do I want to say? I don't know. There is, and this is maybe something as designers and developers that you could have a look at. There is a ton of new technology being used for stage stuff that's not being transitioned into real world usage. Adaptive technology for stage work for disabled artists, holograms. There's a school that just put a hologram of a disabled actor on stage. They were in one location. They put the hologram on stage to do a sword fight with another actor who was live on stage, and none of them were even in the same physical location. Read the book. I give you an example. No, but there's all sorts of adaptive technology. There's adaptive mobility technology that's oftentimes is used for stage work that's not being transitioned into real life work. Inclusion writers, now made famous because Frances McDormand yacked about them during her Oscar speech. But they're now something that, and have always been something that actors, casting people, and even designers and developers can request be added into hiring contracts of any kind. If you're a developer and you're a consultant for a company, you can request an inclusion writer. If you have to make a team, you can say, I'd love an inclusion writer stating that one of my work team is a disabled person and one is an LGBT person and so on and so forth. Inclusion writers are not just for the arts, they're for everybody, and they can be used in any organization at any time. And if I'm talking too fast, she should just go, woo, and I'll stop. She's happening. She's happening. All right.
No worries.
No worries. Oh, bless your heart. I love you. I love her. But now, and take a look at this. Think about what's happening in this room. I'm sitting in New York talking. She's remote somewhere. Amazing. Typing. You're all sitting here. See? But still, she's not here. There's people watching this live stream, I know, in Hawaii, because that's where I flew in from, and all over the place. There's cameras, there's projectors, there's microphones. You each have one of these things, I'm sure, and computers. The amount of technology in our lives that we don't even realize is in our lives. And there's got to be workarounds to make all of this work for universal accessibility. Practical workarounds for life, not just for the arts. That's a lot of, I think, what Thomas liked when he read the book, and I talk about a lot of just plain old, this happened and how did we solve it type things. Case studies of what do you do in that situation. More arts, practical, yes, but reality workarounds kind of in real time, and what did we do to solve the problem. And I think they can certainly be applicable in any type of situation. But now, I could continue to ramble forever and talk about things. What is it you need to hear. What is it you're like, oh my God, I don't know, can this even be done with that thing, or am I doing enough with that thing, or what? Any thoughts in life?
Thoughts?
No, they're all just stunned.
They're stunned.
That's all right.
Question to the audience?
That's all right. That's okay. I mean, I can yak forever, but I'd much rather give you what you need or want or are thinking about or afraid to do or afraid to design or aren't sure if it'll work if you do it.
Are there any areas that you feel like, Are there any areas in the arts where you feel like more technology or more inclusion hasn't happened yet? Because it sounds to me like you have a situation where you encountered a problem first and then the solution came in solving it. But I'm wondering, is there an area where that's untapped? And also, not all of us are technologists. I worked for a theater called Visible Theater, in which 15 members had disabilities and 48 members did not. So I learned a lot about inclusion and just the fact that, to me, it reflected the real world. And so anyway, so I'm curious, from an artistic standpoint and also as a very non-technical assistive technology judge, what would you like to see happen in the arts and technology that hasn't happened yet?
Yeah. That's a great, well, there's a laundry list, but first and foremost is the vicious circle that happens in that colleges, universities, corporations, whatever, make absolutely no provisions to recruit, hire, admit, train, adapt to, and work with new, young, disabled administrators, stage managers, designers, playwrights, actors, dancers, and don't even tell me disabled people can't dance, musicians, painters, potters, whatever. Nobody's actively recruiting them and putting them into the top quality training programs at which they would excel, I have absolutely no doubt, because there's still the continuing, well, they're disabled, and I just don't know if the caseload, it would be so hard on them, and oh my God, I just don't know if they can do, ableist crap. Let me just say that again. Ableist crap. And it feeds into the vicious circle of, come time for graduation, well, we just can't find anybody to be a disabled designer, and we just can't find anybody to do this, and we can't find that, and there are no disabled stage men. There are, but they're not getting accepted to the programs they need to be trained so they can be fully competitive in the world, and so then you get the blowback of they don't exist. Well, of course they do, but there's no provision set up to, hey, treat them equally. There's a thought. So that they can move into the world, be administrators, directors, be anything, just like, people without disabilities. And for theater companies, often it can become that vicious circle of, oh, well, they're all disabled, so no matter what they do, just clap. That crap, because they're not really trained, I've heard it. I ran a theater company in this town for 18 years. It was the first fully inclusive company in New York City history. Think about that. In 2001, I founded this company, and there was still not a company that was fully inclusive at that time. Disgusting. And we got handed we'll be sure to clap hard. And I'm like, clap hard if they're good. If they suck, don't clap. Hello. Just like you would with bad theater anywhere. So that's a big area that still lacks a lot. Universities in particular, the academic world is absolutely out of touch with the reality of ability and disability. And every time we make a war, and every time people come home from war, we increase our disabled populace. 1 in 5 people in the United States is disabled, and it's encroaching on 1 in 4. And that's a huge amount of the populace of this country to be ignoring, whether it's academically, theatrically, design-wise, accessibility-wise, common sense-wise. So that's the top of my list, certainly, is equal access to all that stuff. Yeah.
I had a question too, or comment. I saw the show Spring Awakening, I guess last year, and had sort of inclusion of captioning live in the production experience. You know, had sign language, was really incorporating it on the Broadway sort of stage level. I'm just curious about open captioning, or like having captioning as part of a theatrical production's sort of thought process around, you know, maybe having shows that have open captioning, or just your thoughts on that, or how often?
I think it's great. I think anything that enables, I mean, my vision of the perfect world is where anybody, I don't care what their disability is, I don't care what color they are, I don't care who they married or what they do at home in the bedroom, I don't care. I want every single human to be able to walk into every single space and enjoy every single thing that everybody else gets to. Period. Universal accessibility. So closed captioning, which by the way is done all the time for opera and nobody thinks about it. You go to the Met, whether the opera's in English or Italian, you got closed captioning. Why shouldn't it be for theater? Of course it should. So anything that enables yet one more person to get whatever you're giving them is a positive. Closed captioning not only works for deaf or hard of hearing people, but also people that can't see the stage well, but they can read captions well. It can work for all sorts of things. It's like, I was talking to somebody the other day who was like, oh, well, ramps are so good for wheelchairs. I said, of course, they're great for wheelchairs, but they're also great for kids, elderly people, people with sprained ankles, people with broken knees, people who have mobility issues, prosthetic legs, cerebral palsy. It's not just about the wheelchairs. That's just the most.
And people carting in lots of equipment.
So we're who?
People carting in lots of equipment.
People, delivery men, oh my God, yes. But wheelchairs are the most visually obvious. And so that's the thought is, oh, it's good for wheelchairs. It's good for everybody, truthfully. It's absolutely good for everybody. So anything that enables anybody anywhere to access something that is their right as a human being is how it should be, period. And that includes education, jobs, whatever it might be, benefits, all those things. So what can you do that you're not doing? All the things that you're probably doing, not only designing and reading and showing up at talks like this, but activism, screaming a lot, pounding tables, voting, retweeting, being politically active, because right now it's all about the politics of everything. It's all about the politics of who gets the education, who gets the jobs, who gets access. And the more you can argue for people who don't have a voice, people who are marginalized, the better it is for everybody, including yourself. Email, call, text, all those things. Be an ally for the people that many of you are actually designing for. There are many ways to be an ally. What else? I don't know. More questions? 2 people. Woohoo!
I think this is somewhat of a 2-part question. What are ways to deal with, I guess, some of the limitations that crop up with how ADA and some similar laws are worded? An example, I have a friend who has mobility issues that are not immediately visible, and she has a couple times in going to the theater purchased a wheelchair seat because she does need that for her for the challenge she faces. And some theaters have been okay about this, and other theaters have really given her a hard time when she shows up and she's not in a wheelchair, in part because I think there is a fear that they could get sued if somebody sees a non-wheelchair theater member in a wheelchair seat. And then likewise, where are there good plain language clarifications on some things? I know of a particular institution that was hiring in their ticket services office, and they had a candidate who was deaf and was going to need a sign language interpreter to do the job. And they ended up not hiring this person, and they were terrified that they had broken the law because they had let the disability get in the way. The problem was they had a budget to hire one person, not one person and a sign language interpreter. So I guess it's sort of, how do you get clarification on what some of the legal aspect is, and then work with the places where the law is maybe not as broad reaching as it could be.
Sure. No, it's a great question, and especially now because the Americans with Disabilities Act has just been gutted, and so is now being strategically taken apart, in essence. And unfortunately, this is something that, hi Nick, all my disabled actors here will attest to, in that when you have a disability, especially a visible one, you are an inadvertent educator, therapist, advocate, whether you want to be or not. It doesn't matter. If you want to just live your life, you're still going to find yourself going, no, but I really need the wheelchair seat because I have a neurological condition and sometimes I fall down. And if I fall down, yeah, I could sue you too. I mean, it's unfortunate that the ADA, when it was written, it didn't, I mean, they were so glad just to get anybody to listen to them at that point in time and to get this act put through Congress, that they didn't, and the term universal accessibility wasn't really a thing at that time. They were just like, Mother of God, just get us access to certain things, please. So there are folks in the disabled community kind of arguing that the current dismantling might be a good thing in disguise, because now it's going to have to be rewritten. Because it will be rewritten, and it will be reapproved, and it will be a thing. Again, it will be, I promise you. What was the second part of the question? I'm like...
I guess where someone can get clarification on what...
You can literally call the ADA. You can call them. They can be called at any time. And I would say call them as opposed to emailing them, because right now they're insane. You can also go online, type in your city, and plug in disability consultants. There are lots of them. If not, plug in disability advocates, plug in my name, whatever, email me. I answer questions all the time about accessibility, disability. Do I have to have a ramp if I have this type of a thing? And is this blah, blah? And what about this seat? And I actually just confronted somebody in Hawaii the other day for taking up 2 handicap spots to unload a truck. Now, it wasn't an issue of they need to park there, but they don't have a visible disability. And I do understand that happens. People need to use disabled things and they don't seem, air quotes, disabled. They may have a TBI, a traumatic brain injury. They may have cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy in its early stages. They may have a variety of things. But if they've got that disability sticker on their car and they park there, they should be able to park there, even if they don't look disabled. We need to redefine what disabled is, because a lot of times it doesn't look like it. And there are a lot of people who pass. I referenced that in the book. I talk about the days when black actors could pass for white, and they would pass. And that there are disabled artists who can pass. And then there's the dichotomy of, do I pass? Do I not pass? How long am I going to be able to pass before they figure out, holy crap, they're disabled? I mean, that's an issue on the disabled side. On the other side is, if somebody gets out of a car and it's got disabled plates and they tap dance and sing, doesn't matter. If they've got disabled plates and they get out of the car, you give them the benefit of the doubt. You just do. And the same for your friend who needs a wheelchair seat. It doesn't matter if she's in a wheelchair or not. The seat's there for a disabled person. And she needs it, she should get it. Unfortunately, she may have to be the educator who teaches them, I can sue you too, Bubs, and I'm disabled and I need the damn seat. You know, it sucks, but that is part of, you know, I don't look at disabled folks as people whose burden is that they're disabled. Their burden is that they have to teach all the other doofuses who aren't disabled what their rights are, what they deserve, the fact that they need access, the fact that they need training, the fact that they should be treated like every other human being. You know, it's not their job to tell you why they're disabled, what happened to them. It's not a mystery you need to solve, and it's not their job to tell you about it. You know, their job is to be who they are and demand equal, equitable access to stuff. So that didn't help your friend at all, but maybe it'll give her some to go, God damn it, I'm sitting here, and, you know, because oftentimes that is what it takes. You know.
Well, is this on? Okay.
You're good.
No, I also wanted to say that I'm pretty sure she doesn't have to declare what her disability is or let anyone know. And I can give you an example for myself. I love to call Madison Square Garden and whatever venues I can. And a lot of times I've now had to request a wheelchair seat because they'll give me an ADA seat. For example, when I went to Sting and Peter Gabriel, it was fabulous until I realized I'm right by the staircase and there are hordes of people, you know, passing by, and it was extremely dangerous going up and down, getting into my seat, and I never wanted to do that again. So technically, I do not require a wheelchair seat, but it was not safe to be in the seat that I was in that was supposed to be ADA because I walk with two canes. So I know that she really doesn't have to justify it to anyone legally. People may just be, you know, kind of jerky about it. But I'm pretty sure legally she's covered. So I wanted to address your question, but then I actually do have a follow-up question. Is that okay? Well, it's more of a comment because what you were saying earlier about wanting more training programs, I think it's a real chicken and the egg sort of situation because I find that I have friends that are performers and I see only the 5 people I know in almost everything that is public. No, and everybody else, you know, and a lot of casting people will say we don't see actors with disabilities, we don't meet them, where are they, right? But I think in a lot of ways because of that, a lot of my so I run workshops on beauty and self-esteem called Give Beauty Wings.
Good.
And a lot of my students are afraid to try things like go to some kind of artistic training program because they don't see enough of people like them already doing it. So, and the same 5 people get all the jobs, it seems. So what recommendation would you have for, I mean, to kind of work on that chicken and the egg situation? Because I think, you know, more than 5 people can do all these wonderful things that are out there. And that hopefully there'll be more projects for people with disabilities once there are more artists with disabilities.
No, and it is a chicken and the egg. And I mean, I definitely look at these 2 gals, both of whom I've known since before they had agents, before they were out doing auditioning, whatever. And now they both do have agents. They're filming stuff left and right. It's kind of disgusting, actually, you know. Cast and normal casting directors,
They don't even bet. I'm sorry. Like the regular big casting directors don't even bat an eye for the most part. I've never had a casting director say to me, "Oh, like,
are you disabled?"
No. And I just worked on a show, a huge show, that didn't even know that when they brought me back for a second episode and they didn't even know I had a disability, and I told the producer and she was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." She was like, "That's amazing." I was like, "So you fulfilled that, you checked that box for your show. Congratulations." You know? So, I mean, and even if we do, like, Rachel and I have the same agent, you know, I get into normal rooms all the time. You know?
I know.
You don't?
But you both have different accessibility, and I'll tell you a big thing to tell your students. This is a thing. I talk about it in either this book or the other book. I just wrote another book. Anyway, a big thing with casting right now, and a big thing with artists being able to work, is the visual factor. there's a hierarchy of disability casting. Primary casting goes to actors, actresses in wheelchairs. Why? It requires the audience to not think. Audiences go, wheelchair disabled, got it.
Right.
There's a hierarchy, and wheelchairs are at the apex. And then actors who sometimes, depending upon how awake you are as a casting person, how woke you is, sometimes can pass unless you really understand disability, and then they don't pass at all. You don't pass with me, neither one of you. But a lot of times casting people don't know what to look for or what a disability means. They have an antiquated notion of it. So an actor may pass, not because they really do pass for a non-disabled person. They may be obviously disabled. But the casting director has no concept of what are all the forms disability takes. So there's a visibility factor that will impact your students, unfortunately. But I get contacted all the time, by casting directors, by folks. We need a blind black man with one left foot and 4 fingers, and I'm like, great, I know 8 of those. Let me send them your thing. So I would ask your students to go online, find these 2 ladies, find the Apothete Theater, Greg Mosgala in town, email me, reach out and audition, go do it, you know?
Yeah, Visible Theater.
Yeah.
He was my writing mentor. I played myself in something called True Story Project
Good.
with them, and
Yeah.
he performed in that with me. So he's one of the 5 that I was talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
But it's good to know there's probably 8.
And keep reaching out, you know?
Hi, Steph.
Hiya.
Just to add to that, Identity Theater is a new company that I founded, and we're always looking for persons with disabilities in our shows because she inspired me. I founded it, and we're in cahoots to take over the world. But my question is you've seen my building where I live, gorgeous building on 99th Street. They're telling me that the gates do not have a push button to get into, and they're telling me that it meets ADA guidelines. How the hell is that possible when it doesn't have a button for wheelchairs to automatically open the gate?
Yeah, no, they're lying to you. That's in a nutshell. They're lying. There's a requirement of 18 inches of clearance space. There's a requirement of a door
So
handle.
how do
There's
I
a
go
requirement of
about
a lot of stuff. Yeah, but right now, again, ADA has just been gutted. So, yeah. But people, unfortunately, are already using it as an excuse, even though it hasn't passed fully. Oh, it's ADA accessible, in the hopes that it will be gutted and I won't have to really fulfill on any of these.
Just to comment on
Issues.
that too, we've had some people from like New York City local agencies present here. So I mean, I would definitely feel like if that's something that is of concern, discussing it with local council.
Some buildings may not require the building period. The building was
Right.
built before a certain period of time.
Then it's not required to be, but I know his building, so I know it's built after, yeah. So they really do need to fix the front gate, actually, yeah. More
Yeah, sure.
things.
I wanted to follow up on what you were saying about the casting. And you said that you see like maybe sometimes the same 8 people go in. So is the question about how do we get it so there's just a flood, an inundation of people of different abilities to get in? And is part of that also with your students telling their own stories? I mean, for many different areas of theater or arts, that if there were writers that told stories for
Right.
themselves of being differently abled, or even if they're not differently abled, still told their stories and there's a demand for it, then perhaps that's part of a pathway, but I still don't know if that addresses the casting and casting the same small segment of people all the time.
No, absolutely, it's a big chunk of it, and it's part of that kind of thing where I talked about the academic world not training. I mean, in America, we don't support our playwrights really anyway. Look at other countries who treat their playwrights like gods and grow them up, and we, if you make it as a playwright, you're lucky. But we need disabled playwrights. We need people telling disabled stories so that then we can have those roles, oh my God, played by real disabled actors, which is a big one for Hollywood. I start my second book by listing all the actors that this year are going to play lead roles in movies with people, about people with disabilities, and not one has a disability, not one. And there's at least a dozen that I name. And this is now. This isn't 40 years ago, it's now. That's shameful, it's disgusting. Hollywood is so far behind reality, it's ridiculous. There are some shows, Speechless and other things, and there are the wonderful casting directors and agents and managers who work with disabled actors. But Hollywood in general, forget it.
Following up on what you had said about part of that being the visibility of a disability, could some of that, because I know that within some recent years there were a lot of stories with characters with depression, disabling depression, and then those were also portrayed with actors who I don't know whether or not they actually have that, but that as a communication as well, that sometimes this depression is disabling. And then that opens the conversation as well of what are the other things that you do not see? What are the other stories that you are not familiar with? And including the ones where it's more outwardly visible.
Yeah, I mean that whole hidden disability issue, which really wasn't a thing until about 10 years ago when that term started to be bandied about, hidden disability. It covers a multitude of stuff, not only including people who have major physical disabilities, but right now, today, can pass, but it also includes people who have depression, bipolar, dissociative identity disorder, traumatic brain injuries, the beginning stages of a lot of degenerative diseases. Tourette's, autism can also, those spectrum disorders can fall under that hidden disabilities thing as well. I think, oddly enough, those are being explored more thematically and in writing, in television and in film, but again, are often not played by actors who have those actual disabilities. Physical disabilities, nearly without exception, are always played by able-bodied actors, and there's always, I hate this, the excuse of, well, but the movie shows them before and after they lost the leg, and you wouldn't expect them to blah, blah. And I'm like, listen, if they can CGI a leg out, they can CGI a leg in. Don't even hand me that. You know, it's ridiculous.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Rachel.
So funny that you mentioned that, because they actually did that for me on a TV show that will be coming out on Amazon this summer, I think. Yeah, they cast me because of my leg. I wear a prosthetic leg. And they show me basically, I can't give too much away. I'm not going to say what it is, but like they show them cutting off my leg basically. And then there's a whole big other scene where I don't have my leg anymore. So that was pretty cool. They like built a whole left leg for me. Yeah.
Is there like gore and fun stuff? Or?
Yeah, there is.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Of course, awesome. Yeah, lots of fake blood. But I did want to mention that the CSA, the Casting Society of America, did have a great event on January 7th of this year where they specifically called in actors with disabilities. And there were quite a few casting directors there to watch. I would say like 100 actors with disabilities showed up. Yeah, so that was a great step. Yeah.
It's a huge step.
Yeah.
Huge step.
It is huge because I don't think anything like that has been done before. And so now we're more on their radar. Yeah. And I actually found out from one of the casting directors that that's part of the reason how I got an audition for NCIS New Orleans, where I did a guest star that premiered like 2 weeks ago, I think. And so they helped me get that audition, which I found out after the fact. And NCIS New Orleans is one of the best shows on TV right now, I think, because they have a staff writer with a disability. So they cast actors with disabilities probably like 10 times more often than any other show on TV right now. So that's really great on them.
Which also, yes, brings to the point, Oregon Shakespeare Festival. You're like, what? How does that connect? They have a staff member with a major disability, and he became disabled after working for them for 10, 12 years. And when he became disabled, and then they kept him, and they redesigned his office and all those type of things, all of a sudden, boom, everybody got a big education on disability. And all of a sudden, Oregon Shakespeare Festival now casts more stage actors who are union members and who are not union members, and enables them to become union members than any other major festival in the United States. Why? Because they have a disabled person on staff. So it is that vicious circle of, until people are in positions where everyone around them has to be conscious, they have to. Then they go, oh my God, oh my God, they're like, oh, people. Yeah, you think? And then they get hired, and then it's better. Unfortunately, that's not always what's happening in the real world, as much as it sucks.
I swear I'll give up this mic eventually, but no, I'm just so inspired by what we're talking about, and I think what you're really saying is that we need more leadership from the inside. I think for Microsoft, for the tech people here, Microsoft has so many people at the C-suite now with disabilities or with family members with disabilities. So they made accessibility an incredible priority from the top down. And it has made Microsoft 365 the most accessible, software really out there. And so I think really what you're getting at too is that when we can foster more leadership within the disability community and then prop up those that are ready to take those roles, I think it will have this wonderful effect of hopefully bringing this very naturally into the conversation, instead of like, we need this one token person because then we will fulfill X, Y, and Z. And just like Greg starting his own company, that we need more people doing that. And have you seen Jamie Brewer is in? Did you go see her show yet?
Haven't. Oh my God, I'm here for like 4 days, so no. But
I think it's called Amy.
Amy and the Orphans.
And the Orphans.
We all know Amy and the Orphans. But no, you're absolutely right. One of the things too that when you've got disabled folks and also folks of color, folks of different genders, folks in the LGBTQIA community, all the folks, ages, gender, everybody, when you got them all together and you create things, you problem solve and you figure out solutions in a whole new realm of figuring out solutions, because it's not just 5 70-year-old white guys sitting around smoking cigars yakking, solving things or not the way they always have. Instead, you've got everybody who's really invested in being there and solving and being involved in the project together. That's how creation happens. But you've got to open the door to all the people to help you create. Back when I started my company in 2001, I had to go looking for disabled artists, because in this city, nobody was dealing with them. Nobody. I had to go find them. I found Greg. He came and auditioned for me and just blew my socks off. And I was like, I love you. Come work with me. And he did. But now there are half a dozen companies here actively working with disabled artists, and some change happening. It's never enough, though. It won't be enough until, I said this in a big interview I did. He said, when will it be enough? When will you be happy? When will you stop talking? Probably. But I said, when I don't have to have this conversation ever again, when I don't have to talk about embracing disability, color, gender, whatever it might be, when we all just sit down and go, oh, so let's make something awesome. What do you think? And what do you think? And what's your idea? And what's your workaround? And we just do it, and we don't have to talk about, well, but is it accessible? And what's your gender? And what's in your pants? And what bathroom are you going to use? Oh, my Lord. So my dream for the world is that we don't have to have these conversations, that we all just cast whoever's best in the part. Design so everybody can get up the stairs. Fix it so if you're deaf, you read the things, and if you're blind, you got your Braille reader, and if you're limping, you've got a ramp, and it's just how the world is. I'm a dreamer, yes, but I'm also a realist, because I ran a company for 18 years. We did that pretty much. We found the workarounds. We made the shows. A lot of people, have gone on to other stuff. So go change the world. I don't know. I don't know how to end it. You end it, Thomas. You're the big guy, because I know you said talk for an hour. And
This
I don't
is
wanna...
perfect. No, I mean, this has been great, and I love that we've had such an engaged conversation. So I think it's been exciting. There's also some good acknowledgments of people that are doing this well. I think that's always good for us to know
Sure.
who to recognize and make sure, as you mentioned too, advocates for supporting people that are really representative of what leading by example for other people to learn from.
I swear I just
Say
have
it,
one
say
last
it.
question, because since you did this for 18 years, I'm curious, what was the process for you? And I'd love to hear from the artists who benefited from this. What did you learn from working together? I think,
Specifics, read the book, but yeah, I can tell you generals for sure. Yeah. I truly did. I believed going into it that having had disabled people in my life as a person, and seeing, if you have a disability, whether you're born with it or it comes to you later in life, the very definition of your life is a workaround. You work around problems 5 billion times a day. That is a definition of who you are as a disabled human being. You carry that with you. That's just your life. Is it not your life? That's your life. You are an educator. You are an ambassador for everybody like you. And knowing these things, I got to New York and went, what? Nobody's working with disabled artists? What the hell? This is New York! Are you kidding me? And promptly got so pissed off, I made my own theater company. Oh, little did I know. But I've learned through those years that, by God, I was absolutely right. That any art, any project, anything you make is more creative the more differing human beings you pull into it. Even if you have to get on a train, go out to Forest Hills and sit on their couch with them and tell them for 3 hours that yes, you lost both your legs in an accident, but you were an artist before and you're still an artist now, you just have a different body. And keep at them for months until they go, all right, I'll just get involved to shut you the hell up. But then they come back to life as an artist, and they give you their creative energy, and you make something amazing with that. So, I know people say, oh, you sound like such an idealist, but I'm not. I'm a realist. The reality is you can all show up, you can all work, and you can all create amazing things if you just let everybody in the door. Everybody.
Oh, I don't need to run.
Oh.
Oh, I just want to say, to answer your question, I've worked with Stephanie, and she is a prime example of bringing an actor back to life. I was beaten when I found her. And because she does what she says she does, people do come back to life. And I can firsthand attest to what she says she does, because she did it with me. I am an actor with cerebral palsy, now in the wheelchair, wasn't always. And she said, okay, so what? You're going to play this part, and thanks to that, I'm here, And, you know, and the work goes forward. I am now getting my doctorate in disabled theater studies. You know, I'm making my own thing. But it's because of people like her that get the wheel turning that other people then can pick up and carry the torch further, or in a different way. I don't want to say further than you. 'Cause
Well, just
that's
carry
not
it at
possible.
all. Carrying it at all is the battle, man. Just pick it up and carry it.
But to
That's
do
all.
it at all,
Yep.
I mean, that's why, you know, that's why I do what I do, and that's why a lot of us do what we do, because it all started with her.
Bless your heart. Check's in the mail. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. I think that's a good way. That's actually the best way to
Good ending.
end our presentation tonight, and that's also why we do this meetup, right? To transmit the ideas and be as broad as we can. You know, there's always something new and stimulating, thinking about how accessibility applies to any area in the world. So that's what we seek to do. So if you have ideas about other presentations for us to have in the future, you know, we're always very interested to hear those. And once again, just like to say thank you to Stephanie tonight for her presentation and her discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for asking me, buddy. And here, flyers for the book, seriously. It's a good book, if I say so myself. It is. Yeah, I get a flyer. I know. Yay.